Hello friends, welcome to the channel of LevelUp IAS, and here we are with you to discuss important topic which may be linked to the general studies paper 3 of your syllabus, the topic of issues related to direct and indirect farm subsidies and MSP. So MSP is a specifically written term which is mentioned under the GS3 of your mains syllabus. Now why it is in the news? Because again there is a war of words which has started. You would be knowing that the states like Punjab and Haryana holds a key position in the agriculture domain of our country, and the next year elections in the state of Haryana is scheduled. So there is a political uplift of the issue you can see in the area around Punjab and Haryana and also in the western UP. Some 2 or 3 years ago, there was a massive protest of the farmers over the issue related to legalization of MSP, giving it a legal recognition, making it a law, and recognizing MSP as the right of farmers, while they were on the protest to boycott the 3 farm laws which were passed by the parliament then. So we are going to discuss the issue, basic details about MSP. We will see how MSP is decided, who is the authority which recommends MSP and how it is finally decided, what are the factors which are taken care of, and we will see should MSP be legalized, the arguments in favor of the MSP, and what are the demerit of the MSP system in India. So it was the Minister of Home Affairs who has recently remarked, countering the allegations made by the opposition that despite so many efforts of the farmers, government has not taken any effort on the legalization or giving a statutory recognition to the MSP. The Minister of Home Affairs says that they are open to any debate on the issue of MSP, and he had tried to indicate that over the years in the government, the recent government, the farm prices on the basis of MSP has only increased and it has not decreased. However, there is again an article which surfaced in the Indian Express written by Mr. Bhupen Singh Hooda. So he was very vocal about giving the statutory recognition, giving the legal guarantee over the MSP by the government. So let's in this context understand that what is MSP and why it is set up, how it all started. So it was in the 1960s when the government was trying to encourage the farmers to adopt new technologies in the farming, and it was not possible to without giving them an assured income. How can you expect someone to spend on the technology if they do not have their own guarantee whether they can have the 2 meals a day or not? So there were various committees which were set up, and based on the recommendation of that, there was some rules which were formulated. A committee was formed during 1964-65, and that committee recommended for formation of a commission, and later Agricultural Price Commission was formed in 1965, and this commission itself is renamed as CSEP, Commission for Agriculture Cost and Prices, in 1985. It is the CSEP, Commission for Agriculture Cost and Prices, which recommends before the start of the season, cropping season every year, to the government, and government before the start of the particular season of the crop will announce the MSP. So it is based upon the recommendations of CSEP, and finally it is approved by Cabinet Committee on Agriculture Prices. Right? So this is the two-way mechanism. CSEP will recommend and finally it will be approved by the Cabinet Committee. Now, what is MSP and what is the motive, real motive behind MSP? MSP, as you would be seeing here, it means minimum support price. Now, if you are supporting someone, this means you are giving someone a guarantee. So it is actually not to give a guarantee in the seasons of distress, but it is actually a guarantee which is given to farmers when they have bumper crop. It is not to protect them from crop failure. Mainly it is to protect them from the price down. So what happens is that if there is any bumper cropping season, there is good monsoon, good harvest, so there will be increase in the production. With the increase in production, demand being the same, the prices are bound to get low. So in that, income of the farmers also get badly affected. So in order to meet with this situation, tackle this situation, what government will do, government will promise that even if there will be a lowering of market prices, government will procure your crops at a fixed price rate, that is called MSP, minimum support price. Now what will government do with those procured grains? So those procured grains are then supplied through, stored at FCI warehouses and then supplied to different state and through the schemes of union government, through PDS, public distribution shop, ration shops. So that is given to the various schemes like National Food Security, Annapurna scheme. So government will procure at the fixed price and then it will distribute. So it's a kind of a two-way mechanism. But the rationale of the real reason why this MSP was conceived, it is not one but rather three. Firstly, that we have talked, it is an assuring remunerative and relatively stable price which is promised to the farmers even before they are sowing the crops. So before the start of this season, government will announce the farm prices that on this particular season, at this particular rate, we will procure the food grains even if the market price will go less. The market price are remunerative. If farmer wants to sell through the mandis, they can go and they can sell independent of the procurement of the government. But in case of lowering the prices, in case of prices getting down, government assures the farmers that we will be procuring. This is the first motive of it. Secondly, it is to improve the economic access of food to the people. As we have already discussed, that these procured food will be given at a subsidized rate through the PDS, so that the availability of food grains is taken care of. And one of the important aspects of maintaining the food security is the affordability and accessibility of the foods. So government will try to supply those things at a cheaper rate so that even the poorest of the people, what you call is Antyodaya, so they will get the access of the foods. Third is also to evolve a production pattern which is in line with the overall needs of the country. So how it is taken care of, that suppose if government is giving MSP on certain goods, farmers, in order to have a secured source of income, will try to produce more of such goods, more and more. So if government wants to boost production of certain crops, so they will try to increase the MSP of that particular crop. So once MSP was introduced, one of the trifold objective of the introduction was this also, that government could target the increase in the production of a particular crop to suit the needs of the country. Then when India was facing a food scarcity, government emphasized by giving MSP on the food grains. And now we are at a state, thanks to Green Revolution and other initiatives taken by the government, that we are at a stage we can say we are a food secure country, and now we need to look beyond food security and move towards the nutrition security. Moving on. What are the crops covered? So as you know that CSEP will recommend, but there are the crops, these are the 23 crops which will be covered, and apart from it, government has also launched to give a MSP based procurement of minor forest produce. So there is a scheme mechanism for market of minor forest produce through minimum support price and development of value chain for minor forest produce. So this is another scheme. So if it comes, sometimes you encounter that MSP is only for the crops, it is not for the MFP. So minor forest produce, so it may be a false statement. If you want to detail in know that what are the minor forest produce which are covered under the MSP, you can go through the link. This is the Government of India website. Not actually Government of India, this is run by certain government officers, Vikas Media. So you can refer, there are certain items, they are very lengthy in detail, I could not cover them all. So you can visit this link and get to know what are the minor forest produce which are covered under the MSP. These are the crops which are covered. So you find 7 types of cereal crops including paddy, wheat, maize, bajra, jowar, ragi and barley. 5 types of pulses including chana, arhar, that is tur, urad, moong and masir. 7 oilseeds and also 4 commercial crops including cotton, sugarcane, copra, raw and raw jute. So these are the crops which are covered under the MSP regime. Government announces MSP on these crops. What are the factors that are taken into account while government will announce the MSP? The demand and the supply of the particular commodity, the cost which is included in the production, Of course, if you want to make any product remunerative, then the prices MSP, which is fixed, must be above the cost of production. If I am getting certain price which is lesser than the cost of my production, so instead of getting remunerated, I am getting de-remunerated. Instead of being advantageous, I am getting disadvantaged. So of course, this cost of production is to taken into consideration, and there is a recommendation that around 50% more than what is in the cost of production, that is to be recommended by the government as the MSP. However, it is not fully enforced. There are certain things into that. We will look into the Swaminathan committee report and how this 50% and the cost of production formula comes out. But apart from it, there are other factors also, like market trends for both domestic and international. Based on that, MSP can also be recommended. Intercrop price parity, so that the particular MSP for a particular crop is not such a higher that everyone is trying to produce the same crop and other crops are not taken care of. They find no takers. The terms of trades, minimum of 50% that I was talking about. Likely implication of MSP on the consumers of that product. You know, it as of now, it may sound that giving a very, very high remunerative prices or fixing MSP at a higher rate may be highly beneficial for the farmers. But having a higher higher MSP may also disrupt the consumer market because it may prove inflationary in the end, right? So there are certain things, certain factors which government takes into consideration before announcing the MSP. So this is the Swaminathan committee report I was talking about. So in this particular committee in 2004, the government set up a committee with the objective to develop a sustainable agriculture system and also to ensure the competitiveness of and profitability of the farm produce. And this committee has recommended that there should be this fixation of MSP at a minimum of 50% above the production cost. And it has categorized that there are three kinds of costs which are associated in the production. Firstly, A2 is the basic cash component. Then you have A2 plus FL, that is extension of A2. Simply that if I am having expenditure such as seeds, fertilizer, these are my cash expenditure. Apart from it, basically in agriculture, what happens that there is family involved. So if they are engaged into labor, I am not having any additional cost into that. But that labor, if I hire from someone else, that would have additional cost. So similarly, that is to also be taken into account before calculating that 50%. And then they have C2, which adds estimated land and rent interest also. So based on this, finally the MSP has to be decided. So this was recommended by the Swaminathan committee report. Now there are certain persons who are opposing MSP and who argue against MSP, that MSP is not a good or permanent policy measure. Rather, we should go find an alternative and sustainable policy measure. Someone they are supporting. So let's see the arguments on the both sides. So according to, there is a survey which is a report which is by NABARD. Average debt burden on a farmer's family in 2018 was rupees 1 lakh. So if why this debt burden is increasing, or there is an average debt burden of 1 lakh? Because if farmers are having a sufficient source of income, it is but obvious that they will pay. So even in 2019, if farmers of India are having a debt burden, they are not having sufficient income. So don't you think it is rational enough to assure that they have, the farmers of India have assured income, so that they are able to meet the basic needs of their family and even repay their obligations? This is indicating towards one fact and argument in the support that why should have a MSP. MSP may not be only one thing to target the debt reduction. Even waiving of the debt burden by the government is also not a sustainable scheme. Rather, it should be a multi-pronged approach, and one of them may be having an assured guarantee of income. You talk about doubling the farmer's income, technological intervention, that may be the other dimensions of it, but this MSP should also continue because there are certain regions. Agriculture being the largest source of livelihood in our country, that needs to be protected. Simply, there are certain other factors which are beyond human control, like weather, extreme weather conditions, flood, drought, etc. So in that situation also, if not, there will be no MSP and certain market intervention mechanism, So farmers will be left at the mercy of someone else and no one else, right? So in that situation, there is this kinds of intervention which is highly needed by the government. Now there are certain arguments against it also, and they say, firstly, this giving of MSP sets price at a particular level, and even if there is a higher production, ideally by the way of demand supply mechanism, the prices should be lower, but giving an MSP raises the price and it has an inflationary impact on the people, consumers. Bias in the favor of surplus state. So if there are certain states which are producing, see, wheats is produced across India, across the country, but factually you will find that most of the procurement is done from Punjab, Haryana and Western UP. So this creates certain problems, certain bias in the favor of surplus states, right? Second, thirdly, there is adverse impact on the statement in other investment in the other sectors. Government is spending too much in the MSP, and you will find that they are left with lesser money to invest in other sectors or even for the technological improvement in the farm sector itself. That may be one of the implications of it, distorting the cropping pattern and deterrence to the crop diversification. Now there are a few cash crops like sugarcane, etc., which are receiving a high amount of MSP, and you will find the farmers more inclined towards growing that crop, and it may be detrimental to the overall fertility of the soil. So these are certain issues, and even if we are talking about bringing the affordability of food grains at a particular level, but there is existing flaws in the PDS system of India, that also leads to this whole exercise making it to be futile. There we have seen the arguments both in the pros and cons. Now there is one question I want you people to answer based upon this discussion, and it is rather a previous year question which is asked by the UPSC. What do you mean by the MSP? How MSP will rescue the farmers from the low income trap, right? So as of now, this will be all in our discussion. We have discussed, I think, sufficiently on this topic, and you have a question in front of you also. You can gather additional knowledge. If you want to download the PDF, you know how to download it. You can download it from the official LevelUp IAS Telegram channel. Or you can also join my channel by scanning this QR. This is the name. You can also download it from here. If you are practicing this question or any other questions, you can send your answers to me. I'll try to evaluate as much as I can, but there is a limitation. I will not be able to do that daily. On a random basis I can do, but if I give you any questions, I'll try to put certain points related to that in that Telegram group. Until then, stay tuned to the LevelUp IAS. We are in a constant endeavor to bring these kinds of content. Join us. Thank you.